Yeah, big thank you to Yariv Grimberg, who's sponsored tonight in memory of, you ready? You have the names in memory? Shmuel Vigdar Ben Hana Vinatan. They should have an Aliyah and Shemaim, then the Shema should go all the way up, Yariv. Okay, so we talked last week. This was sefirat haomer number 1 last week. We talked about the obligation from the Torah to bring this haomer sacrifice. We bring the haomer, right? I remember Avi, you asked what they do with it. So they took a handful of it and they burned it. And like I thought, the rest of it went to the Kohanim. Once they brought the haomer, which was the new grain, the new barley, then everyone can eat hadash. Everyone can eat the new wheat, new barley, new oats, new spelt, whatever it is. But until they brought the haomer sacrifice, sorry, you have to eat yashan. Good so far? Okay, also last week we spoke about how they tried to bring it from the fields that were close to Israel, close to Yerushalayim, and if there was nothing close, they had to bring it from far away, but they really wanted from close. So now, I just want to talk about and give you guys, oh sorry, not 67, 76, Ayin, 76B. Sorry, it took 5 hours. 76B. What do I want to do? I want to just give everyone a basic understanding of what they did in the temple with this flour, how they got the fine flour. I don't know that you would know this information if not for learning this Gemara. I don't think you would. So I think it's good information to know. What does it say in the pasuk? If you think about all the holiday tefillot, when we read the Torah, we always say the same words. Right? Isaron solet. We always say, what is this? What are these words? What are we always saying? What is it, Isaron? Isaron
is the measurement.
Tenth. Isaron is a tenth. So Isaron solet, a tenth of fine flour. Sometimes they say Isaron ahat, 1/10 of fine flour. Sometimes it's Shenetzronim, 2/10. 2/10 of fine flour. Sometimes we say Shilosha Isronim. Shilosha Isronim, right? So 3/10. So let's talk about this. So it says the Mishnah on page 76b. Haomer hayaba isaron mishalosh sein. The haomer came from, this is the Mishnah on top, the higher Mishnah, there's 2 Mishnayot. The haomer, the final product that they brought for the Korban HaOmer was flour, was barley. It was Isaron Mishalosh Se'in, 1/10 of fine flour from 3 Se'in measurement. So imagine 3 piles, 3 Se'in, which is 1 ephah. Remember this pasuk? HaOmer Asiri Ta'ephah, right? The haomer is Asiri Ta'ephah. Is 1/10 of an ephah. What's an ephah? It's a measurement of barley, a measurement of grain. An ephah is 3 se'in, 3 se'ah. If you take a se'ah, add them together, 3 se'ah is 1 ephah. And so therefore, isaron mishalosh se'in. It was an isaron of solet, 1/10 of fine flour, that came from 3 piles, 3 se'in of barley. Shetei al-lechem, the 2 loaves of bread, which was brought when? Shavuot, Aseret. This is brought from wheat, right? The haomer is from barley, and the Shavuot is from wheat. Shetei alechem, shetei esronim. It's 2 isarons. Each one was the isaron, 1/10. Mishalosh sein, from the same shalosh sein. So the same, let's call it gross product, went into the fennel. And by the haomer, 1/10 came out, which means the best 10th, the finest flour, the best 10th came out. But by the Shavuot, when we do the wheat offering, 2/10 come out. So we have a greater net product. Does that make sense? Does anyone not understand this?
One product.
The haomer was 1/10 out of 3 se'in. So the same gross amount went into the fennel, let's call it a sieve, a sifter. What do you want to call it? I call it a sifter. 3 se'in go into the sifter of barley, and 1/10 comes out. That's all. Everything else you don't use for the korban, just the best, right? But when it comes to Shavuot, the same 3 se'in of wheat, 2/10 come out, and you use them for the 2 loaves of bread, which means you're taking, quote unquote, little less quality flour.
How can you compare barley to flour?
Good one. Very good. Very
How is
good.
that comparable?
Very good. Very good.
Barley is animal food, we always like to say.
Yeah. Good point. The Gemara will say this. Okay. Lechem apanim, which was brought every
Shabbat.
week. Yeah.
Shabbat.
Every week there were bread, every Shabbat. 24 esronim me 24 se'im. It was 24 tenths from 24 se'im. 1 se'ah for each tenth. The haomer was 1 asiri, 1 isaron from 3 se'ah. The lechem apanim, the showbread in the temple, was 1 isaron from 1 se'ah. That's a third less gross product going in. We got this? Again, the haomer had the most gross go in for the least net. 3 se'ah, 1/10 came out. 1 isaron, tiny. The shavuot, 3 se'ah, 2/10 came out. More product comes out. When it comes to the bread, the lechem apanim, every se'ah that goes in, asiri comes out. Instead of 3 se'ah, 1 se'ah goes in, asiri comes out, which means you're getting the 24 times. 24 se'ah, 24 tenths. A tenth per se'ah.
So
Which means you're taking the least ratio of flour is going to be your net. You're using less gross flour to get you your net product for the lechem apanim. For the haomer, you're using up the most gross product. Okay, why?
They're each time. Total using more. So you do each
Total using more ratio. Each lechem was a isaron from 1 se'ah.
whereas in the haomer, it was 3
se'ah brought you 1 isaron.
1 isaron.
Like Dr. Zofer and Adam is saying, maybe barley is different. You have to put a lot more in to get good stuff out. Make sense? Let's see what the Gemara says. My ta'ama, what's the reason? Even the mehadashati, since the haomer comes from the brand new wheat, which has a lot more garbage that didn't blow out of it yet. It's the brand new wheat. And it's barley, which is a coarse grain, like coarse food, you said, right? Isaron muvhad, if you want to get a choicest isaron, a good tenth, lo ati ela mishlosh se'im. You got to pour into the top of the funnel 3 se'im to get good barley. It's hard to get very good, high grade A barley, especially when it's new barley. It sounds like the older barley.
Because the newer has got more moisture in it.
The newer has more garbage in it, also more bran, I think they call it, and more pieces. The older barley is already sifted out. And so since this is a double whammy, it's new and it's barley, you got to pour a lot into the top. Make sense? Okay, what about the next one? Shetei alechem, the 2 loaves of bread for Shavuot. What does this mean?
like grinded or full. Like
They were, yeah, no, they were grinding. Yeah, they're grinding. Yeah. Yeah. How do you know? He's Gemara saying new, maybe not now, but maybe then the new flour has more junk inside of it because it's still new. It didn't, I don't know, it didn't blow away or.
You're grinding fresh grain.
When you grind
drier grain.
Right. When you grind fresh grain, I asked Yuvi, he couldn't help me. Where's Yuvi? I called Yuvi. I said, Yuvi, help me out over here. He said he doesn't know. He has to look it up. He said, Yuvi says, I only know post flour. I don't know anything pre flour. That's what Yuvi tells me. But apparently, when you grind new grain, it's a lot more schmutz inside of there. I don't know. When you sift new grain, yes.
that you're also select on the amount of sifting that you do.
Yes, but it's also not 3-1. Because remember your algebra. It's 30-1.
It's 31, right?
Because it's a tenth of 1, and there's 3. So all the flour is 30 out of 30.
But if it was going to say,
It takes a long time.
it doesn't tell you what the quality of the fine grain has to be.
Right. It says fine flour. Right. We want the best.
You could take 60-1 and it's fine.
Yes.
But it's giving you that ratio so you don't over.
Right. Very good. Very good. And the Gemara is also going to say, can I overfine it if I want to? Very good. But so in other words, this would seem to be the prescription for what we call fine, choicest flour. This is what you have to do. Okay? Now, the shetei alechem, the loaves of wheat for Shavuot, we said, are 2 esronim from 3 se'in. The same 3 se'in went in, but now they got double the amount resulted out in the bottom.
This is the new flour.
So this is new flour, but it's wheat,
But it's wheat.
right? For Shavuot.
The only old is from the barley.
Old is, no, the barley is
I mean,
new
the
also.
barley-
Old is lechem hapanim. So new is the omed, new is the Shavuot. So Gemara says, shetei alechem, shetei esronot, mishelosh se'in, 2 esronim, 2/10 from the same 3 se'in. Why? Kivan de mechitina, since they're from wheat and not barley, like both of you guys said. Afagav de mehadash, even if it's a new wheat, it's a new grain with stuff in there. Shetei esronot atu mishelosh se'in. 2 comes from 3. So wheat is easier to get good product out of than barley. And therefore we get double the amount of fine flour from the wheat as we do from the omed, from the barley. What about the lechem hapanim? Lechem hapanim is 1/10 per se'ah. So lechem hapanim esin de'arba'a esronot, 24/10 me'esin de'arba'a se'in, from 24 se'in, 1/10 per se'ah. My ta'ama, why? Given the mechitin atu, since it's from it's wheat, which is very good to give you a good product. Umiyashan atu, and it's old wheat, it's not brand new. Yisrael muvhad atim se'ah. Every se'ah gives you a nice, fine flour. And so we're going to talk a little bit of how did they go about sifting all this flour to get the like physically, how did they do it to get the fine result? But this is first what Dr. Sofer said. Tanu Banan, we learned in the Mishnah. Kol hamenachot, all the flour offerings. Shriba b'midat esronan, or shmi'et b'midat esronan, pisulot. If you increased the result of what you got, you increased the bottom result, and you sifted more than 1/10, which means you let out a lot more inferior quality. If you sifted more than 1/10, or you sifted less than 1/10, which means you let out less but better quality. Pisulot, it's not kosher. It has to be asirit of a se'ah, like we always say in the pasuk. Ribam midat se'in. However, if you want to pour more gross product in the top, like you were saying, I want to pour 6 se'ah on the top, which means the 10th I get is going to be a really good 10th. It's going to be the best of the best. Or shemi'et b'midat se'in, or I want to pour 2 se'in on top and still get the 10th. That's kosher. Kisherot, it's kosher. As long as you get the 10th. A 10th of the product you pour in, that is our general prescription to get you good flour. 9/10 is not good flour, 1/10 is good flour. Now, if this part I don't understand, I definitely don't understand the next part. I'm telling you right now. If you want to manipulate...
If the ratio is 1/10 of a se'ah, you'll always get the same product.
Right, but if you...
just get greater quantity.
No, the opposite. If you want to pour more in the top, I want to make it the best lechem hapanim you ever tasted in your life. I want the best, not a 10th.
So what am I missing? If you take a 10th of a se'ah, now you take 2 salt, or you say put 2 salt and still get 1/10.
If you double the gross product,
And get 1/10.
that imagine how good that is. If you double the gross product,
It clearly says stay to the measurements that I told you.
right? So the measurements are a prescription for fine flour, like he was saying. This is what's called fine flour. There's finer flour. There's finer flour.
But they'll say you'll have to use finer flour.
You are.
It
It says.
use
So this is a
fine
hidush.
flour.
This is a hidush. Well, it's not lotosif because I'm not. The other way would be lotosif. I want to bring 12/10, if that's even possible. 2/10 I want to bring. No. The final offering, what Hashem doesn't want 2/10. He wants 1/10. Well, you could.
1/10 of a defined quantity.
No, because the pasuk doesn't say the quantity. Pasuk says solet tiena. It should be fine flour. The rabbis are defining fine flour. This is the measurement for fine flour. 1/10.
No, and you need 1/10 to make a loaf.
Yes.
Yes, you need 1/10 of flour, whatever 1/10 of a se'ah, right?
That's all you get.
Right.
It's 1/10.
But
That's right.
so you say, I need a cup.
Let's see what he's saying.
But you also, it also gave you the measurement of what.
Yes.
What was the rate?
It's a minute, one asirit from leha.
But that's the,
That's- It depends which we're talking about. The omer now, it depends which item we're talking
So
about.
let's put it in number. Let's assume for a second that sefirat is 10 grams. So it tells you have to stick to 10 grams, but you can get it from 1 kilo, from 2 kilo, from 30.
Now
You bring the 10.
Right, now we rather you bring 3 kilo, which means you used up a lot of stuff just to get this little product. It must be a great product. But if you want to double that, which means your product is double as good.
Yeah.
Or you want to shrink it.
The savon is really the name for an actual measure.
Yes, exactly.
So it doesn't mean 10% of what goes in.
It says, so if we talk about fractions, the numerator, denominator, the Torah only says 1/10 of what? It doesn't say of what. 1/10 of what? Isaron. And so now we're saying 1/10 of a se'ah, but you can change it if you want to, because the bottom line is Hashem just needs 1/10 of the product you put in there.
But you, no, the difference, 10th of the product you put in,
We don't know what you put in. What's the
Right.
gross product you poured in?
but the flour, that's not consistent with what you said. Originally, we said you put in for the haomer, for example, you put in 3,
3 se'ah.
and you come out with 1/10 of 3. Third. Okay. So-
Hold on, Adam, 1 second.
30.
The number one reason why we have to study this, Avi, if you can't do something, so the question is this, we'll go back to it. The question is this, they ask out there, there's 613 mitzvot, but you can't do 613 mitzvot. You can never walk away. Yaakov says, Im lavan gadti, talyag mitzvot shamati. I kept all 613. Liar. You don't keep 613. You don't keep nida. You don't keep hala. You don't keep kohanim laws, tum'ah, tahara. You don't divorce your wife, hopefully not. You do yibum, you married your deceased brother's wife. Oh, you don't keep 650 mitzvot. And so the answer is, if you learn about it, it's like you did it. And so literally, if we can't keep the Korban haomer, we learn about this, it's mamash like we did it. We're doing it now. We're doing it now. And so now this part, the first part, this is why this is it. Yeah. Otherwise, you can never walk around. You keep maybe 30 mitzvot.
13, sorry.
I give you the benefit of the doubt. This is the only way we do it. Most of the mitzvot we keep is from studying, not from action.
Wow.
Most of the mitzvot. The Hafetz Haim was so big on learning kudshim, as they call it. When the Hafetz Haim was around in the yeshiva world, in Brisk, they learned kudshim. Kudshim is kodashim, korbanot stuff. In my world that I learned in Lakewood, we never touched kodashim. Never learned anything about korbanot, ever. Mostly. They call it kudshim, the Ashkenazi. Kadashim, yeah. Hafetz Haim, he always said, you have to learn kudshim. You have to get ready for Mashiach. If you really believe that we're having another temple, you're not going to know nothing.
If you're Kohen, yeah.
That's what Hafetz Haim used to say. And he was a Kohen. Hafetz Haim said, if you really believe Mashiach is coming, you're in Kolel 40 years. Okay, the temple's here tomorrow. What do we do, Rabbi? I have no idea. No idea. Hafetz Haim said, you have to learn it. No, the manual. Okay.
Look at the YouTube video.
Should we do the next part that's more confusing?
Yeah.
I honestly don't understand. I asked UV for help. I did my ishtadlut. Huh?
They use less of them?
So it must be that there was a shortage. Let's say you couldn't find, like the last week's class, they couldn't find enough. The siege of Jerusalem. So it must be that there's also a dispensation. If you put less, you still get a 10th. But yeah, but this is kosher. Interesting halakha. You put less.
So you could put more or less,
Or less.
and get the same amount.
But the real way to do it is 3.
But what you have to get out is not 1/10 of what you put in. Maybe it originally, if we're saying a 3-to-1 or whatever, but the point is, you have to have, let's say, a pound of flour or 4 cups of flour. You have to get whatever that measurement is. It's the ratio.
No, you need a 10th.
1/10 of what you put in.
Yeah.
So then if you need to make the haomer,
You're saying it's going to be a bigger size.
yeah, if it was 1/10 of 100 pounds, or if it's 1/10 of 1 pound, you're going to have far less products going to come
I don't
out.
know the answer to this question. He's saying, okay, if there's no limit, if I want to put 75 se'ah and I get a 10th, that's going to be massive. Is there a size
So I thought it originally said the end product was a specific, not a portion,
But it doesn't
portion
say
of what they put in, but it had to be, let's say, 1 pound of flour or whatever. And so if you put in 100 pounds, that 1 pound of flour is going to be really, really fine. If you put in 2 pounds, it's not going to
That's how I understood.
be, yeah.
Right. But it doesn't say it. No, we're not changing it. We're saying we don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
What's the question?
He's saying, how come there's no size prescription for the size of the bowl
The
of
volume
flour?
that you need to get out. Like he's saying, it was remember the 1/10 from 3 seah, or
1/10 of what though?
1/10
If we
of
can
3
manipulate
seah
what
is,
goes
let's say,
in.
is a big, and if you put 6 seah and 1/10 of that's going to be twice.
Also, you would think
Twice as
that
much volume.
local bread should be
Right.
uniform. They didn't
Whereas
have
if they
one
think
day
you'll-
that
No.
come up with one-
No, I'm sure each week's was uniform,
No matter how much.
but maybe week to week was different. You know what we're gonna do, Adam? We should open the Rambam and see what he holds when he writes.
No, it says 1/10 because maybe that's a measurement of the quality. If you want to make quality, this is how
That
you
is
do it.
100%. It's a quality
So
measurement.
now, if you could make the same quality possibly out of 2 kilos, meaning if you have some better barley, you might be able to do the same quality in a less ratio. But standard is this.
Right, but that's true. But he's asking how could I have a different size every week if I manipulate it? What?
Because you keep refining it.
So
Let's see.
this
Maybe the older it gets, the more you need.
Hold on. What's he saying?
this is a scientifically possible thing.
Explain.
You're starting with raw wheat, right? And then you're translating that to refined powder.
Yes.
How in the world can anyone take a bunch of wheat?
You're grinding it. You're grinding it.
How do you grind?
Yeah.
How are you going to determine?
What's the best? I have an idea. The next piece of Gemara walks us through the sifting process.
No, so
Compare 2 things.
so I think it's 10% of the problem.
Let's
You have to
read.
get to 100%, realize what 10%. You have to do the whole thing to get to 10%. How do you stop the milk? You're refining all this grain.
Avi.
How much is it? How much is it like? What does it look like? How much? A handful? I mean, is it the?
It says they put a scoopful. We have to. I don't know. I don't know the volume. You have to read on bomb. See what on bomb says.
So I have to know.
But it's flour, Avi. It's flour going in. It's flour going in. It's not like
It's very refined.
no. It's
very
flour going
refined.
in.
Flour.
I'm saying, grind it.
Oh, so they're starting with powder.
It's not fine flour. Yeah,
Maybe.
Oh, I get it. So this has already gone through the process, and now we're taking flour.
and we're refining it to get a better pop.
Flour. So now the guys take the
All
powder.
we're doing is we're sipping.
Let's do the next piece. Let's walk through it. By the way, I'm telling you, I said this before. I don't understand the next piece. I don't understand the next piece. We have to read it. Mamash, Moshe, I don't understand this next piece. Let's read it together. But maybe it'll help. You explain to me. First, let us see the Mishnah. Haomer haya menufa b'shalosh esrei nafar. They would sift it in 13 sieves. Sifters, I don't know what to call it. Sifters.
So what it is, go from one to one.
It will go from one to another one. It's a machloket how. Let's see how they did it. Shetei alehem b'shtem esrei. The 2 loaves of bread needed 1 less sieve. Is the sieve the word? One less sifter. The lechem hapanim b'yod aleph, and lechem hapanim, the 24 loaves went in 11 sifters. Rabbi Shimon Omer, lo haya lehen kitzpah. He says no. Rabbi Shimon argues, he says, nah, there's no set amount. Ela solet menufa kol tzorcha haya mevi. You just have to bring good flour. There's no prescription, says Rabbi Shimon, on how many sifters you have to sift it. Shnei amar, as it says, ve'lakachta solet, you should acquire and bring flour, ve'afita ota, and you should bake it. Ad shetehem menufa kol tzorcha. Just get the job done. Rabbi Shimon holds. There's no prescription. 12 sifters, 13 sifters. Now, hold on. Wait. Let's see the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan. The rabbi said, Badka begasa. Moshe, you looking inside? We're going to need your help over here. Moshe.
Yes.
Badka begasa. Badka. Oh, sorry. Bedaka begasa. Bedaka begasa. First, they alternated. They put it in a small hole sifter. And then they put that, whatever's remaining, in a big hole sifter. Bidaka bigasa, bidaka bigasa. A fine hole sifter, and then a big hole sifter, and then back to a fine hole sifter, and then back to a big hole sifter, etc., 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 until they finish the job. Someone explain to me why. What? So
When you put it in the fine one, it's taking all the big, it's only letting the fine stuff through.
no. So
I want to tell you something very funny.
Yeah.
You know, I'm in the diamond business.
Yeah.
This thing that's called C. We have Dakar and we have Gassab. They go by number 5, number 6. And I get a big lot of diamonds and I want to get a certain size. Put it in the thing and I go from the big to the small and sometimes we alter it.
Okay, but hold on one second. The only way I can think that this makes sense is if the fine flour is not the smallest. If the fine flour is the smallest product, the smallest of all the flours, you don't have to go back to a big one. Just keep going thinner to thinner to thinner. Right, and go daka, more daka, more daka. The fact that you're taking, so listen, you did it in a fine one, and so what fell out
Fine
must
stuff fell through.
smaller than fine. That must be bad.
That doesn't make sense.
It has to be.
Not necessarily.
Smaller than fine fell out.
Not necessarily. So,
What stayed in?
okay, so the flour comes from the field, right? Got all the peel, the schmaltz of the
Yeah.
of the grain, right?
Yeah,
Now you don't necessarily know the size of those seeds.
yeah.
You don't know the size of the schmaltz. It could be a skinny long one that fell in.
Okay, but Moshe, they put it in the daka one. What stayed in the sieve? The junk stayed in. The junk stayed in,
The thicker, the one that has.
and must be your final product stayed in also. That's the whole purpose of a sieve.
Why do you go back?
When you use a flour sifter,
Why can't
The
you-
stuff that falls out.
Better stuff comes out.
the bigger
No,
stuff stays
it's the
behind.
opposite.
When you use a sifter,
It's not the better stuff comes out.
No?
It's the bad stuff falls out. Otherwise, why are you going back to another sieve?
I don't know what you're going about, but normally if you sift in flour, it's
The good stuff that
goes
falls
through.
out.
Yeah.
Right. Well, let me get these guys involved. Moshe and Avi. It seems from this Gemara that when you sieve the flour, the good stuff remains in the sieve.
That doesn't make sense.
Some of the good stuff.
Because if the good stuff is falling out of the sieve, why do you have to put it back into another sieve?
Yeah, the big part.
They're trying to let out the bigger pieces and keep the smaller pieces inside. In the first one, in the thin one.
But maybe like Moshe said, some of the good stuff stayed in there
And right, and then
and
remaining
the bigger
inside of
stuff,
it is bad chunky stuff.
right? And then they put it in
And
the
fine
big one.
flour is in the middle. Now they go back to a big one to let out the junk, and only remaining is fine flour. Now they go back to a small one, let out the small fine flour that they don't want.
That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense why you're saying.
I have a better question for you. Why if they do this, not a, for example, I put the produce separation.
Okay, so hold on one second. That's a good question. I'm going to answer it if we have enough time.
I think the,
If they do separate it with another.
Yeah.
Yossi's gonna get the answer now. You look at that?
Yes, he looks everything up, by the way.
some of the powder that's stuck. It's stuck in the grains, and so you have to go to a bigger one. So now.
But it must be that small product, dust particles that you don't want was in there, and you want that to fall out. Otherwise, what's the purpose?
But usually when you sip something,
You sieve the small. You find
Thank you.
flour. Listen, you find flour falls down.
This is.
The
No.
thing stays on top.
No,
oh yeah, go like this. See what stays.
This is not grinding. This is the way.
It's not
It's
grinding.
not grinding. So you have whole wheat, right? And you sift it. So now you separate the wheat from all the other parts.
We
No,
call
not the jacket, right? And then now.
it's very rough, very rough.
You sift it again, you take off the dirt from the.
All the dust and all the stuff falls out. The fine flour stays.
Smaller particles that you don't-
Hold on, Bezat, it must be that the fine flour is not the smallest product.
I don't use flour, I use the grain.
Whatever it is, the fine product that you want is not the smallest. There's something
It's flour, it matters.
there's something smaller than it that's falling out.
Grain makes sense that you sift out the smaller stuff out. But flour, the more you grind the flour, the finer it becomes. So it must be the grain.
Well, let's go keep going down the road. Now I've finished and all the dust fell out. I put it into a big one, and the big one, all the big schmutz comes out. The big pieces come out. Now I have to go back to the small one to let more little stuff fall out. And then I have to go back to a big one and let bigger pieces fall out. So I'm looking for medium, I'm looking for medium, maybe that's what fine flour is. I don't know. That's why I call it UV. UV, what is fine flour? What is premium flour? What is a baker's favorite top down?
It's the grain.
Can I read you? I found something online.
Okay, you found something?
Okay, I found something online. Understanding how the haomer was sifted.
There we go.
Menachem 76 Amud 2 describes
us.
how flour was sifted to yield the good quality solet flour for the haomer offering that was brought on the second day of Pesach. It was sifted 13 times, the Mishnah says, and the Bible clarifies. If in a fine sifter, in a coarse one, in a fine one, in a coarse one, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says
There's no sense.
there were 13 sifters in the temple, one above.
Oh, hold on. We didn't do that one yet. One second. We didn't read that yet.
I will explain the details.
Okay.
Okay. So he says like this. The top one collects the bran, the bottom one collects the solet.
Whoa. Bran, okay, which is not good.
Let me get on.
All right.
There are several different explanations on this on the page, the shots. Okay. So the commentary attributed to Rashi, okay, says Rabbi Shimon disagrees with the first statement, and I'll admit the explanation of the first. According to Rabbi Shimon, there were 13 sifters. The coarse one catches the bran, the second one sifts out the too fine flour.
But Adam, you're reading Rabbi Shimon now. Rabbi Shimon is not this what we're reading now.
Okay, but I'm just go following the order there.
Okay.
But when it talks about why we have the fine one, he says the fine one sifts out the too fine flour. Then they go to the
Too fine flour,
too fine,
which is we don't want too fine flour. That's what I'm trying to say.
No, right, and then he goes to the coarser one that catches the bran. And then they go back to the second fine one that sifts out too fine flour, and they go back and forth until they get this middlemost sifter
Good.
yields the good stuff.
I think we're good.
Okay.
The fine flour is not the smallest flour; it's the middle.
Okay.
Now,
I was also reading that all the bread that were made separate were more like a matzah than a bread.
they're also very weirdly shaped. The lechem panim,
Right.
it's a mahloket how they were shaped.
Box to put it
Right.
in.
Because like this.
Yeah.
The haomer was made beforehand with like sourdough, when you have like the mother dough.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah.
Remember we learned that with
Benzakim. Yeah, remember that? That was a great one.
A week before that to develop that dough.
What else? What is everybody googling? Moshe, you googled? Everybody.
He's talking about it's not the same seed.
Why would you
The daka is not the daka of the second time.
Different levels.
There are different levels. And he's talking about the very first daka is to get rid of what he calls avla.
The dust. That's mamash what I said. Mamash what I said.
Get rid of the dust.
So when you're
Yes, sir, I
talking
said
something,
that.
the bad comes out or the good comes
The
out?
bad.
You start with the skin.
The bad comes out
you
and the
get
good
rid of
remains.
dust. It's
Because
not
it's
all the
fine.
bad.
Yes.
It's not all the bad. It's a certain type of bad.
We're calling it bad.
Bad, it's the dust.
Yes, but regardless,
Then you go to the gazat.
Moshe, let's just say this. The final product that we want
Is the middle.
remains in the sifter. That's it. It's different than the way we sift these days.
Or maybe.
Google checked and Google verified.
That's probably why we can separate good from bad.
Oh, hold on. No, we'll get to that. One second. Let's just read Rabbi Shimon. Let's read Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon, because Adam already said it. Rabbi Shimon says no. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar omer, shalosh esek nafot hayu b'mikdash. There were also 13 sifters, but it was a different order. Not daka gasa. Zu lamala mezu, v'zu lamala mezu, elyona koletet tzovin, tachtona koletet solet. It was just the same. It was finer, smaller. Okay? Now, let's jump to the first Mishnah so we can move over here. This is how they got the flour. Now, Dr. Sofer asks, what about the holiday? Well, the easiest answer, Dr. Sofer, is we're talking about Israel. When was this done?
After this.
This was done the second day of Pesach.
Right.
Let's pull them when?
Oh, I see.
but you're actually asking a good question.
It's the first night of Holocaust.
The first night of Hol HaMoed, they cut the grain, and they did this scenario the next day in the morning. But you're asking a good question, just you're not saying it right. It's not Pesach. What if that day is Shabbat? That's a question. Okay, let's turn, if you have your Gemara, to page 63, the first Mishnah of the Perek. 63b. Samach Gimel for Yossi. Samach Gimel Amud Bet. 63b. Okay, Rabbi Yishmael Omer. Rabbi Yishmael says, Omer hayaba b'Shabbat mishalosh se'in. The Omer was brought on Shabbat from 3 se'in, like we just talked about. Ubehol, but if it was done on the weekday, mechamesh, we actually collected extra 5 se'in. Rabbi Yishmael is holding, if it's Shabbat, I want to minimize, I don't want to do the minimum. I don't want to break Shabbat more than I have to. So 3 se'in, like the Mishnah said. However, it's a weekday, collect 5 se'in to Rabbi Yishmael. The rabbis say, whether it's Shabbat or it's weekday, it doesn't matter. We use 3 like it says in the Mishnah. Rabbi Hayyana Sagan Kohanim Omer, b'Shabbat haya nexar b'yachid, u'b'magal ehad, u'b'kupa ahad. He says, if it was Shabbat, they only had 1 basket, 1 guy cutting, 1 sieve, 1 sickle. When they went to cut the haomer, they made a very low procedure for Shabbat. We don't want to break Shabbat more than we have to. However, ubehol, if it was the weekday, bishlosha, with 3, bishalosh kupot, 3 baskets, 3 guys, shalosh megel, 3 sickles. Hakamim omri, no. Ehad Shabbat, ehad hol, bishlosha, with 3 guys, bishalosh kupot, 3 baskets, bishalosh megel, and 3 sickles. And therefore, we see clearly Shabbat is pushed off for the ceremony of the haomer. The haomer pushes off the whole Shabbat. Good? Now, let's do the Mishnah that we did. You heard this Mishnah already, and you heard this Mishnah already. Let's do the Mishnah of the process of how they did this. So page 65a, Samachet. So now we spoke about, now that you have all the I'm jumping around pages, I want to give you the background information. We spoke about why we have the haomer. What is the purpose of the haomer? How much they brought? What was the process of the flour? Now, how do they actually collect it? Okay, let's see. Mishnah 65a. Aleph.
65 is.
Samachet. Samachet. So Israeli. Ketzad hen osin. How would they go and collect the haomer, the barley? Shiluhei bedin, the messengers of bedin, yotzin me'erev yom tov, would go out from before the holiday of Pesach. Ve'osin otan kerichot b'mechubar lekarka, and they would tie bundles of barley while it's still on the ground. They would tie ribbons around it to show this is the one they chose to cut. They did this erev Pesach, before Pesach. So it should be very easy to cut it because it's all bundled up already. Now, we're talking about Israel now. They have 1 day of holiday. And so that was Erev Pesach. They chose the field, they chose the bundles. Now we have Pesach Seder. The nighttime, Seder. The next day, Hag. After that, when it's nighttime, it's Hol HaMoed, 1 day holiday in Israel. That night, the first night of Hol HaMoed, which was the Motzei Hag Harishon, what did they do? All the people who lived in the cities near the field, they all gathered to watch in the field. Everybody, either they walked or they waited until Shekiyah and they took a horse. Because we want the ceremony to be huge, big ceremony. Why? We'll see in a second. Since once it gets dark, so this tells you alone, the people walk before dark. So you can imagine it. It's on the holiday. We pray Mincha of Hag. Now, if you're if this Perek is next to the field, everyone walk. The men, the ladies, everyone walk to the field, and we're going to wait till it gets dark so we can watch the cutting ceremony.
He said if they couldn't find it, they had to go to a further field.
Yeah.
They didn't go past the 2000.
If they couldn't, they went to any field. You have to bring the omer. So if you have to go far, you don't go far.
Watch the ceremony at the time.
Yes, everyone wanted to watch the ceremony of the cutting, so everyone would walk. Imagine everyone within walking distance would walk, and when it gets dark, holiday is over, we get to action. They must have prepared in the field. Once it gets dark, Omed Lahin, the guy who's ready to cut, says to all the people watching, thousands of people, Ba Shemesh, did the sun set? Omed, Hen. Everyone says Hen. Aramaic means yes. Yes, the sun set. He goes again, Ba Shemesh. I don't hear you. Did the sun set? Twice. Omed, Hen. Yes, the sun set. 3 times they did it. Magal, should I use this sickle, this instrument I should use to cut it? Omed, Hen. Everyone shouts, yes, use it. Magal, this one? Omed, Hen. Yes. Where should I put it when I'm finished cutting it? Kupazu, in this bucket, in this box? Omed, Hen. Yes. Kupazu, this box? Omed, Hen. B'Shabbat, we said Shabbat is broken for this. B'Shabbat Omer Lahen. Shabbat Zu. I should cut even on Shabbat. Omer Hen. Yeah, go ahead. Shabbat Zu. Shabbat Zu. Omer Hen. Yes. Exod. Ready for me to cut? Hem omrim lo ketzod. Cut it already. Exod. Should I cut? Hem omrim lo ketzod. Shalosh pa'amim al kol dabar v'davar. Every single step was 3 times with the crowd. Back and forth. Imagine thousands.
Are they just describing what the concept is like?
This is what they did. Yeah.
But this is
No, this is the custom. This is what the.
Now, when they're writing this, how many years have passed since the actual time of getting it done? They're writing.
No, this was in the times of the Beit HaMikdash.
What's that?
In the times of the Beit HaMikdash, they did.
It's not 100%.
But they're saying what they used to do.
I understand. The time that they're describing, how many?
Not many years at all. Not many years at all.
Maybe 150.
Yeah, not many at all.
No, only like so this was written.
Very close.
What?
No, he didn't write it. He compiled it. Yeah, but he was very, very close. He literally.
Was between the first and second or after the second?
No, after the second.
After the second.
The second was destroyed.
After the second.
70. So this is written around.
And I think he compiled it about one.
Very, you can, yeah, not long. The Gemara, I mean, the Rabbi Akiva, he saw the destruction, it says, right? And he's a Tanan in the Mishnah.
Still one person be heard by so many people without any sort of PA.
Yeah, we hear an Israeli yell.
One person, the thousands of people in a field.
Well, there were 3 guys.
Everybody
Yeah.
repeat it 3 times, as each one says it.
Maybe one each one. I said it's a mahloket. I read that also in one place. Okay, now, Vidabar HaKotrim would shout to the people, and the people would answer, okay? No, this is Omer. This is Omer, only the Omer. Special for the Omer. Okay? I'll call Dabar, Shalosh Pa'amim, I'll call Dabar, 3 times for each thing. V'hen omrim lo, hen. And they would answer yes, yes, yes on every step of the way. Kol kach lama, why such a commotion? Why? Mipnei ha-baitusim, because of those baitusim. Okay? Now, the baitusim, let's read it real quick. If you want, it's in Pirkei Avot. If you want it, you can have one. Well, I'll read it to you. We read it 2 weeks ago. Chapter 1, Mishnah Gimel. Remember this Mishnah? Antignos ish socho. Remember this one? Antignos ish socho. Pirkei Avot, Avi. Pirkei Avot, yeah? Antignos ish socho kibel mishimon tzaddik. He was a student of Shimon. And hu haomer. Whenever the Pirkei Avot says hu haomer, it doesn't mean he said it one time. It means that he said this. It was his motto. He said this every day. This was his thing he always said. Hu haomer. Al tiyu ka'abadim. Don't be like servants who work for a reward. But you should work for Hashem, not for the reward. Forget about the reward. This is what he used to tell his students all the time. Guys, forget about the pras. Don't worry about the food or the reward that you get. Do it Hashem Shammai. What happened? He had 2 students, Antignos. One was called Baitus, and one was called Sadok. These 2 students, they said to themselves, why is Rebbe telling us so much? Forget about the reward. Must be there's no such thing as reward in this world. Must be there's no such thing as schar be'onesh. You can do whatever you want, and there's no punishment. That's why he keeps telling us, guys, forget about the reward. And so, Sidukim comes from Sadok, and the Baitusim come from Baitus. These, no. The Roshim are good. The Baitusim came from Baitus. He had his own school. He taught his students. What did he teach them? Well, my Rebbe told me, Antignos, there's no reward. Forget about the reward. And he started a whole school of thought like this, and eventually they went off the derech. And Sadok did the same thing. The Sidukim, he said, there's no reward. Eventually it became, forget about the rabbis. And then eventually became, only do what the Torah Shebichtav says. Forget it. No Gemara, no Mishnah, no nothing. They went off because of this one thing. This one Mishnah threw these guys off completely. Okay. So Baitus, so far so good. What did the people of Baitus? So the Baitus yeshiva, they read the Torah without the Gemara, without the Mishnah. There's no Gemara. Without the commentary from the rabbis. Which says, Mimahurat Shabbat, after the Shabbat, you should bring it.
So they waited for Shabbat.
Which Shabbat?
Yeah.
The first Shabbat after the Pesach.
So why do we?
It was on Monday. They waited.
So who says it's supposed to be Pesach? It says Shabbat. It doesn't say after Pesach. It's the Shabbat. We take it literally, and so therefore, in their face, we make a big. Not only do we do it on Pesach because we hold Mahad Shabbat after Shabbat means after Pesach. Pesach is also called Shabbat. Holidays are called Shabbat. Like I said last week, I think. Yom Kippur, Shabbat Shabbaton hilachem. Yeah. Also, Aseret, Shavuot is called Shabbat. It says after you count this, after the seventh week.
So why do we keep Pesach in Shabbat? Because it's the season.
Because it's connected right after Pesach. It's written in the Torah. On Pesach you do this, and then you cut the haomer, and then you count. And so why do we have such a production? Literally just to show the Baitusim, to make them hurt. To say, guys, look, not only we're doing it secretly, we're doing it with fanfare. To show that this is the day of our tradition. It's the day after Pesach. That's why it says, Bechol kach lama, why such a big deal? Because of these Baitusim guys. Shehayu omrim en kitzirat haomer b'motzei yom tov. They hold, you don't cut the haomer b'motzei yom tov. You cut it on the Shabbat after Pesach, which means the Sunday at Saturday night after Pesach. If Pesach falls out on Tuesday, we're going to wait and do it on Saturday night. If Pesach falls out on Friday, we'll do it the next day, Saturday night. No matter what, Saturday night.
The tradition was uninterrupted during the time of Torah.
Yeah, they started a new tradition. They went off. This is the first reform. They went off and they said, we don't believe in your tradition. We believe in what the Torah says only. It says after Shabbat. Why are you doing this on Sunday, on Monday, on Friday, on Wednesday? It should be Saturday night. Now, Belina, the next week, we'll read what the rabbis told these guys back to prove to them that they're wrong. I don't want to do too much because I don't want to bore you. It's very like Pesukim and stuff. Yeah, but we'll do a few of them. And then we'll finish up, I think, next week. Last one for haomer. Okay, so again, wrapping up. What do? We're building on last week. We're talking now today about the flour, how they sifted it. We're Google searched and we're Google verified. The good stuff was remaining in the sifter. Some of the too small stuff, and Uncle Jack doesn't like it. The too small stuff and the too large stuff flew out. They got the fine flour, which is a tenth. Anytime now you see in the Torah, you hear me reading, Bisaron solet. That's what it is. It's a tenth of the solet, which is of 3 se'ah, which is 1 ephah. The haomer asid ta'efahi. And now we know last week where they brought it from, because it has to be kadmel, it has to be aviv, juicy kernels from a close field. And now we know the process of how they cut it. And then next week we'll wrap it up, hopefully. Thanks everyone for studying with us. לפיכך,